Hello and welcome. Well, what are we talking about today? Guantanamo Bay prisoners. Is it a payback or is it a threat? Indeed, sentiment. Well, we woke up this morning to hear that apparently, two Guantanamo Bay prisoners somehow between international negotiations have decided that they want to come to Ghana and spend 2 years. I don't know if it's the remainder of the sentence, whether they are house arrest, whether they are free to roam about, but in any case, they're coming to Ghana for 2 years. And sentiments are generally high in the nation for two reasons. One, we feel that as a nation, it's quite degrading that of all the things we could have imported into this country, scientists, doctors, teachers, pilots, agricultural experts to come and, shed their knowledge, we decided to bring in some hardcore terrorists. And then the other one is, what are the security threats? Indeed, do they have some friends who may want to come and bomb a thing or two, kidnap a couple of people and say, look, give us our people or we're going to cause mayhem? We don't know. Nothing is being said. Chief Ozu was on air this morning on the Super Morning Show saying, there's no cause for alarm. In any case, you guys were complaining that the conditions in Guantanamo Bay was not good enough. So if they are here, why are we complaining? Folks, I don't understand too much of international politics, but I have two people in studio who are going to educate us to find out exactly what we have done. Is there a cause for alarm or is just one of those things? My name is Anan Sakwao. This is PM Express. When I come back, I'm talking to Ibad Ibrahim and Dr. Vladimir Enchidanso. Don't even move. Are we taking them as a payback or are we taking them because we are under threat? But there are some international videos, news stories going about. Let's just watch a clip to set the premises of what we are talking about. Let's watch this.
Detainees. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here. Catherine, who was released?
Okay, so this guy, Bin Attaf, was released. He's a Yemeni national. The military assessed him to be a member of the Taliban, a follower of Osama bin Laden. And then the second guy goes by Salah al-Dubi. He's also a Yemeni. Both of them were judged to be at least a medium risk to U.S. national security.
When? Now or then?
In 2007. But here's the key thing about them. They both attended something called the Al-Farouk training camp in Afghanistan. This is no camp for Boy Scouts. They trained 4 of the 9/11 hijackers. So this is a hardcore Al-Qaeda training camp, and they were picked up by the United States just after the 9/11 attacks.
Where are they going?
Well, they're going to Ghana. This is a small African nation, and as we earlier reported, we're looking at onesies and twosies now as they come out of Guantanamo to these other countries. And here's the thing that people are missing. These countries are not taking them out of the goodness of their heart. They're taking them because they've been promised some favor in the future by the United States. I don't know in this case, but I know in the past, under the Bush administration, we transferred a detainee to Albania, and then a senior member of the administration went to NATO and advocated on Albania's behalf to have more involvement with NATO.
Why don't we get to know? I mean, now that the deal's done, I mean, why don't the American people get to know what the deal is?
Because it's embarrassing. That's it. It's embarrassing.
So at the next press conference at the White House press corps should say, or even to Josh Ertz tomorrow, what did the United States
I can't
give?
speak to how other reporters handle this. All I know is that in 2007, these people were assessed to be either medium or high risk threats to the United States. And what's really changed in the last 8 years is not that they've suddenly become different people, but what's happened is that this White House is willing to accept more risk, to dial up the risk in order to close the camps. If you think Gitmo's a problem, you are willing to accept more risk. If you think Gitmo should stay open, you're saying that this risk is one step too far.
Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Pentagon begins the first wave of Gitmo transfers of the new year, setting free 2 dangerous detainees.
Garrett Tenney is live for us in Washington, D.C. with a look at who they are and where exactly they're going. Hi, Garrett.
Good morning, Heather and Heather. The Secretary of Defense believes these 2 inmates are no longer a threat to the United States, but the U.S. has been wrong before. Several previous detainees have rejoined terrorist groups after their release. So here's a look at these 2 most recent releases. Mahmoud Umar Muhammad bin Atif is an admitted member of the Taliban who fought for Osama bin Laden. The Pentagon earlier determined he was a high risk to the U.S. and American interest, and that's no surprise considering WikiLeaks dockets on him from 2007 indicate that at the time he had threatened to kill U.S. citizens on multiple occasions, including a specific threat to cut their throats upon his release. The second inmate, Khalid Muhammad Salih al-Dubi, trained with al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. The Pentagon previously determined he posed a medium risk if released, but now it's standing behind these releases.
I can assure you that the Secretary of Defense weighs these decisions very, very carefully.
After 14 years at Guantanamo, both men are headed to the West African nation of Ghana and will be able to leave that country after 2 years. They are just the first of 17 detainees that are expected to be transferred out of Guantanamo Bay. And they are already approved, those 17. Currently, 105 remain at Guantanamo. Back to y'all.
Garrett Tenney live for us. Thank you, Garrett.
Well, my first reaction to that is, But then, you know, I listened to Kwachi Fosu, who's Deputy Minister for Communication, engaged with my brother Kwejo Yankson this morning on the Super Morning Show. And Kwachi Fosu's words were that, you know, the U.S. ambassador, who's General Smith, personally interviewed these guys and they said, oh, come on, these guys are reformed. I mean, they could probably pass for Catholic priests as we stand. They are no threat to us at all. Why don't we, I mean, we are hospitable people, let them come. So my question is, why all the hoo-ha? But with me in studio right next to me is my brother Ibad Ibrahim. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for...
I had a brush with death, but I'm okay.
I know. Ibad's gas exploded and in his kitchen and seriously got burnt. And when I thought it was a hoax. I thought it was...
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was. So I went to the hospital. I met the sister. They won't let me go in. I thought, nah, there's still something fishy. It cannot be right. You know, when something is so close, you just want it to be wrong. But thank God you were safe. Yeah, thank God you're safe.
Thank you so much, Nana, for the prayers.
My senior brother, who have been hounding this week that, you know, he has a lot of education and he has to share. He's promised to share that, so we're still waiting for it.
Sure.
Dr. Vladimir Echidazu. Doc, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
Iba, let me start with you. Why are sentiments so high? I mean, we are on the map.
And when you listen to what we just saw, and Doc was, you know, heaving a sigh when we saw what we just saw. These guys have got a very rich terrorist resume, if there is anything to go by. But I listened to Doc today, because I was on Asempa, and I also listened to Emmanuel Sowate, then on today's big story on this same platform. I would have wanted Doc to shoot first because maybe I'm still sick, Nana. Someone has to diagnose me. I seem to have no qualms whatsoever with this. Look, you see the security checks in front of multimedia. These are two guys that have been disarmed, and Doc will educate me further. Already they've gone through the DDR approach, disarmament, demobilization, and they are now being rehabilitated. The resume they come to the table with is quite scary, and you saw how dramatic the footage we just saw was. But Atai was a hardened criminal when he had a weapon, but Atai today, perhaps some two simple guards would be able to take care of him. So Doc, Doc would come in. Would you consider these people at the prime of their activities? She mentioned the Muaskar Farouk in Helmand province, one of the early areas where bin Laden's boys were training. Do we look them through the prism of what they were 10 years ago before their detention, or who they've become? And the classified pieces of documents have also indicated some of these guys have been waterboarded. Doc knows what waterboarding is. So they've been made sober, they've been neutralized, and therefore personally, I don't think these two guys disarmed that would be stashed away at some safe house in Ghana with the needed collaboration with international intelligence agencies personally would pose any problem. But Doc will tell you it is the symbolism of what has happened. Why Ghana? Why have they not been taken, even though other countries on the continent are taking some? Why does the United States not take them for this stopgap measure in one of these, desert states like Texas? After that, you ship them to Yemen. Why Ghana? And what has given our government the impetus to sign such a bad deal? So these are some of the concerns I believe Doctor will educate me on. But personally, even though some people who have been freed from Gitmo have actually gone back, those people were taken to Jordan, they were taken to Syria, Iraq, areas where there is volatility. So naturally, a hired gun would always want to go back to his stock in trade. But for them to come to Ghana under 247 surveillance, they don't have arms. We determine who gets to see them. We determine who they talk to. I don't think personally they would pose any security threat. If they had come into the country on the blind side of security agencies and went to your area, the eastern region, that provides a clash place.
Security in
jungles with mountainous areas for them to start training and recruiting people, I would be much more concerned. But we live in an interesting country where intelligent people like Doc will always, interrogate the decisions we take. So as a foreign policy decision, I may be pro-American a bit, and Doc is pro-Russia anyway. He had his training in the Soviet Union. Look, I was brash about this. Emmanuel Sowati was talking about putting Ghana's national security interest first. Do you have a national security interest? You don't. If you really did, Dumso that kept half of the nation dark most nights would not happen. So therefore, if you want to be Pan-Africanist about this issue, we could do it on our own, we don't deserve it, the Americans can go to hell, then when you drill your oil, refine it in Ghana and use it. When you need Humvees for your military, produce the Humvees in Ghana. So this, parasitic or symbiotic relationship there is between Ghana and the US has had our hands tied. So reluctantly, we've had to accept this, such a thing. So we wait to see what happens. But in terms of Ghana's national security, I think only the symbolism, but I don't think this would pose any security threats to us.
Doc.
That's
what Dr. Danswabiam.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, there's much to talk about this from various angles. You put it in the necessary framework and then you make the choices, as it were. It's not a question of being pro-American or pro-Russian. Many people fail to realize that I trained both in Russia and then took another degree course in the United States for 3 solid years. And so I'm pro-Ghana and pro-international. but on a more serious note, these detainees, you see, Americans fail to even call them prisoners because they've not been tried by any court of competence jurisdiction and they have not been declared in any way as convicts. Because to declare them as convicts, you needed to have sent them through American courts, and they would have gone free anyway. Okay. And as Edbad mentioned, they had been tortured, seriously tortured. When the torture videos came out, there was a global outcry. But more importantly, these are hardened, hardcore. In fact, they were taken from hardcore camp in Afghanistan. I think the clip we saw clearly stated it. Okay. And even on the clip, you saw that it said, dangerous releases. Even there, the Americans themselves are saying that it is a dangerous release because there have been instances where people have been released, they joined communities and went back to their trade. The point which has created much consternation in Ghana is one, the policy that was shrouded in kind of secrecy. Today, foreign policy is public policy because whatever you do affects the nation. That's what he was calling about national interest. Is it in our national interest? Gone were the days when sovereigns, or when we say foreign policy or national interest is the will of the sovereign, the one who is ruling, no longer. Because whatever action you take affects me one way or the other. Let's assume that this thing we're talking about will affect the economy of this country, the efflux to Germany, for example. The people who are against it is because they are fearing the economic impact jobs, whatever. And so that policy should be a public policy. That's number one. Number two, the questions that people are asking, why Ghana? And the clip we saw, you could see that even the Americans are not answering that question. Why Ghana? These are Yemenis plucked from Afghanistan, sent to Guantanamo, a controversial place already. They didn't know what to do with them. Americans want to get rid of them. And the woman, what we saw on the clip, clearly stated that we will take a better risk. So it's like, for me, that answers a lot of the questions. Take them to Ghana, and that's a better risk to America. We need to analyze this from those things that are coming up. The next point is that if they are Yemenis, and you want to get rid of them, Edbert suggested Texas. When Obama tried to create a certain enclave for most of them, Congress hit against it. Now, we didn't have a Congress which would hit against it because it wasn't made a public policy. If they are Yemenis, and you want to send them out, and you are nosing around to find acquiescent countries to take them, why Africa? And let me digress a little to say that last year, because of my profession, I got wind of this already. And I published an article, 8th May 2015, Ghanaian Times. Check that publication. And I was unequivocal about this, and the title was, Guantanamo, let the dead bury their dead. And I was alluding to the fact that America wants to send these hard criminals onto some countries who are acquiescent for what we don't know. And in the past, they had done it before. They did it to Gaddafi. When some people were taken from Pakistan, hardcore Al-Qaeda elements, and sent to Gaddafi in a kind of, I call it bribery, because Gaddafi was then left in whatever quandary. Assets had been frozen throughout, and he wanted the assets to be defrozen over Lockerbie. So Americans gave him these miscreants. They were locked up in Benghazi. Incidentally, it was these same people, when they were free 10 years, 15 years later, that led the revolution against Gaddafi. So they will go back to their trade. So my question is, my concern is, if you really want places where these people could be tamed, and you want allies or friends, Ghana is a friend to the USA. They are Yemenis. Yemen is in trouble. Why not Saudi Arabia, for example? It is the greatest ally of the US. And they will do every bidding of the US. And they can have the wherewithal to be able to put taps on these guys. Why not Saudi Arabia? Close to Yemen. Why Ghana?
Why Ghana?
Why? The question is, why Ghana? We need to ask that question a billion times until we get answers.
Most of the sentiments that have been shared this morning is security threats. Ibad says, look, these guys are on pension, they're not going to do anything. Is there a possibility of them having friends saying that, look, they're not going to do the 2 years, we've taken your plane, give us our guys, or we won't give you your plane back, or I'm going to bomb that stall if you don't give us our guys, because they're not going to do the 2 years. And the 2 year, what does it mean? I mean, if they're free to go, they're free to go. Why 2 years? I mean, after 6 months, if they've had enough of the Hamatan, can they go?
It's part of the dressing. We take a decision, and we've got to dress it in gaps that are acceptable or more amenable. But the point is clear. They pose a security threat or security threats. Look, you've plucked them away from what they know how to do. You've tortured them as if beating the thing out of them. Now you've released them to a country that is quite peaceful. Nana, today's terrorism should not be underrated. No part of the world is immune from terrorism at all. The whole planet is a war front for the terrorists. These guys, with the skills that they have, can help either ISIS, of course they are not on good terms with ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, or any other thing, any of the groups in several fields. Almost all terrorists deal in narcotics. They deal in money laundering. They deal in hacking. They deal in gun running. Supposing after their release or whatever it is, as they are in the country, they are able to link up with some, Lord excuses Nana yourself, some business. You don't know where the money is coming from, some very lucrative business. But then out of the business, you don't know what is happening. They can do this easily. Now they're here. Would you deny them the use of their computers and things like that? But I tell you, the computer has now become the greatest ammunition for the terrorists, for recruitment, for propaganda, for everything. So if people say, oh, they are harmless, I doubt. And terrorism today is now cell-based. It's not the old hierarchical kind of thing, the Al-Qaeda type. It's now cell-based. It's cellular. And what is small,
anywhere can strike.
Yes. And that is why we should be worried. The government side is saying that we have an obligation. It's not a legal obligation. It's not bestowed on any country that when you have those soft laws about humanitarianism, it's a soft law, it's a soft international law. It's not a hardcore international law. It's a soft law that gives you a moral kind of obligation. No, humanitarianism. All nations, have a right to help, and you must help, kind of. But you are not obliged. If Ghana said no, we are not going to be sent to the gallows, to the ICC. So there's no obligation. I mean, we are not obliged legally. Morally, yes. And it is on that moral ground that I ask a question. If after 2 years these guys say we want to remain in Ghana, what do you do?
Let me bring my brother in. I mean, what's this idea of the 2 years? Because in the morning, everybody kept asking why 2 years, and and they said they may leave, not that they will leave, but they may leave. I mean, to the layman, what does it mean? I mean, have we gotten 2 extra citizens?
I think de-radicalization takes quite some time. When you look at the records, one of them was cleared around 2006, 2007, and the other was cleared around 2009. So it's been like 6 years of being fallow in terms of active insurgent participation. So in the wisdom of the Americans, if they've gone through the needed psychological processes, this is just the icing on the cake before they can be not unleashed back into society. They can be set free to mingle with people. I would like to tackle some of the salient issues Doc mentioned. Saudi Arabia is a very good country. It's the richest country in the Middle East, but it's got a very bad human rights record. And Doc knows this better than I. And the Saudi Foreign Affairs Minister Jabouri gave the Iranian ambassador 48 hours to leave the country because he was declared persona non grata. Why? Saudi Arabia severed the head of a prisoner, and the Iranians were not happy about it. So the Americans, yes, they may be hiding under the cloak of international law to be doing certain bad stuff. They are concerned that despite the torture, that's about the double standards and Doc was referring to. You would torture them, waterboard them, simulate, drowning as if you were about to kill them. Now, you don't want to take them to certain countries where you think their human rights will be infringed upon, because some Arab countries are no-nonsense countries. In Algeria, you could easily be taken to the gallows. In other countries, like Saudi Arabia, doesn't tolerate such things. It executed 47 people, including that Shiite cleric. So therefore, maybe that would answer why Ghana has been chosen to some extent. We have a much better, a much sexier human rights record compared with Saudi Arabia. But still, it begs the question, and I agree with the doctor entirely, that we should probe further and understand why not Togo, for example, or Burkina Faso? Or is it that the information is classified and therefore we don't know? And we know that since former President Kufuor said no to any permanent American military presence here, yes, AFRICOM wanted to establish their permanent base here. But we know they've got some forward operating bases in Burkina Faso and elsewhere in the Sahel. Why not those areas? Why Ghana? So therefore, I think that is a $1 million question. Competent hands like doctor would want to interrogate.
This white Ghana business. Anyway, on the lighter side, I mean, there's two. So I think we have to give them a party card. One should be MPP, one should be NDC. You know, welcome to Ghana. No, this is what we do here. Here we don't bomb. We don't chop heads. Just
we could put them on the Joy Supermorning.
You see, here we don't bomb
anybody.
quickly
Interject so that we can allow our viewers also to enjoy part of the humor of it. You were talking about they have been the vim in them about their radicalism may have died down since they were declared moderate and whatever it is. Let me tell you a story about an anecdote about a priest who was given a hardened criminal, a thief, petty thief, to change. And this guy rose to the rank of being an altar boy at the Catholic Church. Yes, and he was so good that everybody knew that he's gone beyond those bad days. Once upon a time, he was traveling with this priest on a major road. The police accosts the priest and asked him for his license. Apparently, the license had expired. So the police was saying, well, and the police, you know, I mean, running around and things like that. The priest was begging, I'm going to preach, we're going for a conference, nothing would, and so finally the boy said, Father, you know, they say go and come for your license, let's go, let's go. So as they moved, the priest was thinking about, what kind of disgrace is this, embarrassment and that kind of thing. He said, that's your license. So how did you do it? So I picked it.
Tricks of the trade.
So he still got it.
He still got it. So don't be complacent about these two guys whom you think for 10 years.
He keeps them there. I'm going to take a break, you see, and when I come back, I want to find out about the relationship between America and Ghana, because I am told, and I've checked out from you, that I think we have the second biggest embassy outside of either Russia or the UK. Ghana's got the second biggest American embassy, which we want to find out what it is at all here that we have such a big embassy here. Don't move. Well, thank you very much. And we're discussing these, our new friends, where we're giving them a party card. One is going to be MPP, the other is going to be NDC, and we're going to tell them that in this country, this is what we do here. We don't bomb, we don't chop heads. Just join a party, we bake her in the morning, go to sleep.
But they come into the fray where you have MPP and NDC at each other's throat. So maybe they teach the skills.
Perhaps one will be commander of the Invincible Forces and the other will be for Azoka Voice.
See now, two things. Now I got a message here from Awo. I was saying that now if Fox News hadn't broken the news, you know, would we have known if they, you know, these guys haven't?
Yeah, it would have been shrouded in secrecy. And you asked about the United States.
What's the interest? Why is there such a big embassy?
But wait a minute. You see, the U.S. itself couldn't hide it. And the U.S. public is angry. Why didn't you make it available to you? Why were you hiding it? You know, those questions were being asked even in the U.S.
The prisoners are leaving and they are angry.
Because they have not been made privy to the sort of arrangement you've made with another country. If something goes untoward in this enterprise, America is at risk. That's what the questioner was asking. Exactly. Why that our democracy impels you to let me know what is happening to my country. Exactly. That's the anger.
And they have got amendments, the first amendment, the second amendment. We are now struggling to get to the right to information bill passed. So this,
and in the same vein, we are also asking, why were we not? So it couldn't have been shrouded in secrecy.
It was
one day something would have happened.
I think
I've just been told of who is my wife.
Congratulations.
Nanaire sent a message saying that, you know, if Fox News hadn't broken it, would we have known? So you've gotten the answer.
Maybe you should have had it on what's the program?
The Standpoint.
Not Standpoint.
That's my opinion. That's what we do today. That's what we do today. Okay. Yeah. It's a bit more aggressive than this one, but
Nana, I think I do a lot of things with the Americans and the Canadians, and I've had the opportunity to have meeting and working engagements with the one in charge of Ghana-U.S. relations. She's called Brooke Lannis. Then the one in charge of Ghana-West African relations, and the political chief and his deputy as well. I think there is a very strong relationship between Ghana and the U.S. And of course, I've also met the Russian ambassador, the tough guy. Yeah. But I think...
But why? I mean, what does America want from such a small country? Well, a GDP of what, 70 billion, if that? I mean, what?
Let me finish. That's a lot. That's a lot.
I think we stand to gain. The relationship has been quite parasitic for quite some time. I don't know the kind of thinking that went into this. I'm not in government, but I think Honorable Hanatete's statement to the press late yesterday in the evening was a preemptive measure to parry off any criticism that will come with a lack of transparency in dealing with this, because we live in a global village. Anything that falls in Washington has got domino effects across the country. So therefore, they've not been fair to us. We've not got all the details. But I think we shouldn't make a fuss over this, Doc.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the U.S. still remains a very important part of our national development as a country. And therefore, Obama made this as a campaign promise, and he wants to make good on the promise. He said he would end the war in Afghanistan, end the war in Iraq, and shut down Guantanamo Bay. He ended the war in Iraq, and ISIS was created out of that mess. In Afghanistan, the Taliban is capturing cities, Kunduz and other areas. So therefore, he wants to make good on this foreign policy promise he made the American electorate. So therefore, they are also inching ever closer to their polls, their elections in November as well. So if Democrats and the NDC have got a working relationship, and they think we could pull this off together, then so be it. That is the sole prerogative of government. But as Ghanaians, we have every right to question the decisions that have been taken. From where I sit, having done a lot of, I've spent most of my teens studying militant organizations. From where I sit, I don't think these two guys would have the liberty to operate and go to KNUST, where already we've got an ISIS recruit who has gone to Syria, get to interact with people. No, the kind of security that will be provided at every safe house we keep them will be more than what we have in Ankafo. They can't talk to anybody. They can't interact with anybody. So
no WhatsApp, no email?
No, I don't think, Doc, prisoners would have access.
If you continue the type of condition they were in Guantanamo here in Ghana, you'll be worsening their situation. But I think we claim that His Excellency Smith spoke to them. It is claimed that they voluntarily chose Ghana. It is claimed, all the claims. So I think they also have some expectations. And we can't keep them under the cock like that. Okay. But I thought, in terms of the transparency, usually, and coming back to Nane's question about why Ghana's relationship, America is one of our biggest donors. America is one of our biggest partners. America has been very sympathetic to Ghana since Nkrumah's time, as you know. And if you look at our democratic credentials,
relatively.
Oh well, yes. In terms of,
well, the CIA overthrew Nkrumah. So I mean, how?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference. It was the same America Nkrumah appealed to before Kaiser engineers were brought in and that kind of thing. So America looks at Ghana as a positive country. In fact,
I mean, the Kaiser deal was to favor them and not us. I mean, sorry to deviate,
I'm using these ones as this to show how America looks at Ghana.
Okay.
You know, it's like they wouldn't want to lose Ghana. Even in the days of our so-called revolution, you know, there were some altercations. I mean, we said we had, we tried to arrest an American diplomat with some cash of this thing in the trunk of the car and blah, blah, blah. It brought about some diplomatic row. They were quick to plaster it. Again, the exchange of 1 Susudis with 8 Ghanaians and whatnot. These are some down this thing with America. But then we're able to make do with our relationship and that sort of thing. What is worrying in this present scenario is that when you are taking the risk off somebody's neck, the way Americans wanted us to help them, then you back in hard. I think Ghanaians will be very much interested in what inures to us in this transaction. As I said, the Gaddafi situation was there that he said, okay, fine, bring them, but defreeze my assets. What is in the Ghanaian bag? What did we bargain with? What is going to inure to our national interest? This is a question we need to also answer. So Americans are asking questions, even they.
But Doc,
that's why we need to ask questions.
But Doc, if under this the Americans say, well, you don't have warships, we want to give you 2, we'll give you some choppers as part of the fleet you have in your Navy.
I agree with you, but I'm saying
such information will not be made public.
No. It can be made in a different way. Let me give you some of the things we watch and talk about.
Okay,
you know, Johnson Sirleaf, when she won power in Liberia, everybody was expecting her to quickly tackle the Charles Taylor issue. But the Charles Taylor issue, according to international law, is such that she couldn't touch him because it was under a treaty that he was brought to Nigeria. So it is only that treaty, when it's revoked by ECOWAS, which made the treaty, that Charles Taylor could be touched. And a treaty once signed, as the lawyers will tell, international lawyers will tell, Pact Sunt Servanda, once you sign the pact, it's got to be seen to be obeyed. Then she goes to the US, looks for money, but Americans wanted Charles Taylor. So they said, we want Charles Taylor. She comes back after she's gotten 50 million, and she quickly asks for Charles Taylor's head, which was illegal in international law, in the sense that no Liberian tribunal has ever indicted Charles Taylor, even as today, up today that we talk. But then she bargained, she got 50 million. So she came and said, I want Charles Taylor. Obasanjo was coerced one way or the other because he also wanted his 3rd term. Americans kept quiet. These are bargains in international diplomacy, which may be quiet until specialists, like I'm doing, analyze. Because how was Charles Taylor looked, I mean, from Calabar all the way to Maiduguri, and Nigerian intelligence, are they stupid? So you could see it was a certain bargain, you know. So I'm asking, we don't have to bring these people in before we say, what are you going to give us? There must be something that should inure to the benefit of Ghana for taking the risk, for taking the, I don't know, some other countries may even insult us for doing it. The radical countries in Africa definitely will insult us. So what inures to us? These are
Mugabe will be laughing
of
at
course.
us now. And Yahya Jammeh of the Gambia.
VR's bill for us.
Something like that. All of a sudden,
VR's
we see
bill for us. That's not much, you know. Pay for car power, settle VR bill, just bring these 2, we give them their party cards, and they are okay. But let me catch up with some of the comments of what good or benefit do we gain in hosting these guys. Some of the, of what need would it be to harbor such hardcore terrorists? And then the 3rd one is, why should the president stoop this low to admit this? This is Pa Kojo in Weja. Our security apparatus in Ghana is not as powerful as America. America referred to these people as dangerous, yet Ghana with this less security apparatus, sees this as less dangerous. We have a country where our security men are easily bribed. These people are rich and amass whatever force they want and can easily bribe our countrymen. Ghanaians should be aware of this bad deal. And this is Emma in Dom. We can't think for ourselves for once. Why do we have to accept such a person in our country? USA has the capacity to monitor these Guantanamo detainees. Why are they pushing them to us? They are doing so because the American people will not accept them in their midst. The government is accepting them because they know for sure that Ghanaians are mostly ignorant, and those who know about it will only talk about it for a few days, and that will be the end of the matter. He simply doesn't respect Ghanaians. This is dangerous, a dangerous move by the government, and we Ghanaians must resist with all our might and tell them that we can't take you can't take all of us for granted. Adenkra. God have mercy on our motherland Ghana. This is Roland in Trifo Praso. The next one says the president should consider the people of Ghana first before taking certain decisions. The terrorists can condone and connive with some people to commit serious crimes. Ghana and Ghanaians are not safe with these people. They must be kept in the Sahara Desert. Salas E.T. Tano in Takrade. Please, I think I agree with Doc. We should be very careful. It seems we are taking things for granted. Once a soldier, always a soldier. From Alex Kankam Ajikum in Kumasi. Hey, thank you panelists for the education, but I think we're exaggerating the threat. They must be welcome. But I am sincerely grateful to your journalists for the in-depth knowledge. Nana, could there be any economic benefits to this action by government? Why Ghana? Until government answer this question, we will not let them rest. This is Kadaga Clement in Sunyane. And then, Nana, what is the government's interest in accommodating these terrorists? It's only a madman who will sleep under his roof on fire. Brooks from Bolga. And then last one, Hassan Chire in Ashiaman says, why this government used to welcome troubles to this country? They first welcome Ebola and its troubles. Why? Why? Are they only in this country? Why? I'm going to take a break, and then when we come back, we continue the discussion. Don't move. Guantanamo Bay prisoners in Ghana, is it a payback or are we under threat to receive them? But it looks like it's an international relation thing that happens behind the scenes. Two questions I want to find out is, should Parliament have been informed that, hey, guys, this is what's on offer, what are your constituents think, should we get them? That's one. And then number two, I've read the sentiment, and I'm sure if I take 1,000 comments, everybody will be saying, look, we could have done without it. Should it matter in governance level, or look, Charlie, this is too high above pedestrian, conversation, leave it aside? Doc, let me start with you.
Well, there's nothing pedestrian now in politics. No matter how pedestrian it is, the people must understand it before they move with you. Because if they oppose and they destroy even the good intentions, you have gone nowhere. And that is why I'm saying that you always want to test the public opinion. In war situations, people call it the center of gravity. If you know the opponent's center of gravity, you hit hard. America's center of gravity, as everybody has always told, is one coffin. What is meant by one coffin? They do not want to see a corpse of an American soldier being brought from abroad. So public opinion is that very strong. And everything they would do, they would want to explain to the public, even when it has happened already. Because public opinion is very strong in policy formulation and implementation. And therefore, in such situations, though it may not have gone to Parliament because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a right to get a presidential accent for some of these things, cabinet meets and take the decision, if you inform Parliament and you sensitize them, and they sensitize the public, the media, everything, before those decisions become a reality, it's always better. It's always better, because if public opinion is your center of gravity, then you've got to be very careful, so that you don't have a kind of ochlocracy. I mean, when people go onto the street, mob action, and they say, no, destroy things before you change your policy. And that's why today, foreign policy of diplomacy has become a kind of public policy. I mean, it's something that the public will have to be sensitized. No, they are the consumers of your policy. And therefore, if ours didn't even go through Parliament, I would have no quarrel. But at least something that would inure to the benefit of Ghanaians, we must know. There have been several such instances in our part of the world. In Africa, we are not that very sensitive to these issues, and it's very dangerous for a democracy. I'll give you an example in Ghana. It's a recent thing, a few years back, when we recognized Kosovo in place of Serbia, which had taken over the reins of, we call it, those transitions when there is a state failure. There are some states that come out of the ashes and say, I've assumed the reins and the responsibility of the state that collapsed, like Soviet Union collapsed, Russia took over, Yugoslavia collapsed, and then Serbia. We had strong ties with Yugoslavia. And so when one country says, I have taken over the reins, that strong ties continue in diplomacy. But unfortunately, soon, when Kosovo wanted recognition, and they needed about 73 members of the world before they are recognized, and the US and other Western powers were pushing. Ghana all of a sudden, and we are in the game. So I kept knocking and wanting answers to why we recalled our ambassador from Serbia and recognized statehood of Kosovo. What do we...
Until the international press didn't cover it.
Exactly.
And perhaps, who knows, hadn't Mexican drug cartel operators, maybe somewhere in Africa. America has been operating secret prisons for quite some time. Yeah. And the leaks from Edward Snowden and Julian Assange brought out some of the things that were being done behind the scenes. You are talking about a timid populace where we don't really care whose ox is God. We take the decision, we talk on radio and on TV for a few days, then we all forget it. And so we are not able to hold our leaders to account for the decisions they make. The Republicans and Democrats can get at each other's throats on matters they do not agree on, Obamacare and other issues, gay marriage and other issues. But there are times they have bipartisan gun control. But there are times they have bipartisan agreements. But Doc, you were talking public opinion and the need for civil society organizations, the media, to bring this to the fore so that ordinary citizens like us would get to know the nitty-gritty of such dealings. Look at all the public discourses we've had, EPA, whatever decisions, the jockeying continued till thy kingdom come. So we never reach a consensus, knowing that this is a trajectory that will help us. So that is why sometimes the hands of those with a bully pulpit are tied, then they take executive authority and do whatever they want to do. But if nobody was informed, I believe a subcommittee in Parliament that is in charge of Interior and Defense should have had
Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee.
Then they should have had an inkling of what was going down. So therefore, I think there should have been much more education, just as Doc has said. But anything that is brought to Dana is tinted as NPP or NDC, and the debate would have gone on for a long time. No, so maybe sometimes you would have to crack the whip and take stamp your authority and take certain unilateral decisions.
As to whether being Atif or Sally, who's going to be NPP or NDC, but we will decide. But Doc,
you toss the coin.
We'll toss the coin, and being Atif or Khalid Sally, one of them will join.
Doc, Yemenis by nature. Yemen is the most impoverished country in the Middle East. They are belligerent people, bellicose. Let's go and fight. Yes, so yes, we are happy they will not be let out there. Bin Laden found safe haven in Yemen before he was actually in Sudan, then Yemen, then he was kicked, then he went, and the Taliban government of those days accepted him. So they are quite a belligerent people. They've lived in poverty. That is why the Saudis cannot win against the Houthis. Yeah. Saudis are rich people. The young men have been in luxury for a long time, so they can't go to war. No. America sells all the weapons, but they can't fight. But Yemenis are quite an interesting piece in the jigsaw puzzle in terms of turbulence, belligerence, and therefore we have to be careful about them.
For the lack of respect or the disrespect shown the average citizen. I mean, if you were a government, you're a representative. We haven't sold the town to you. And so if you're going to make a big decision like this, we are all stakeholders that, Jack, this is what's on offer. I have, 6 helicopters and 2 Navy ships. All I have to do is keep these guys here. They have promised A, B, C, D that we're not going to be at any safety. What should we do? Should there be a 1 million man march to say, listen, enough is enough? Because we seem to just accept anything. Tomorrow morning, I'm sure anybody can just wake up and say, look, hence from today, I'm increasing petrol to another 60%, your electricity another 30%, should we get up and say, look, for disrespect, kick these guys out? Should we do something like that?
Anybody who would advocate in a Ghanaian context a kind of million-man march and expect change is living in a fool's paradise. Sorry for my words. Because we are in a country where everything is politicized. That people will not look at the issues. It's not in the states where people are well informed or any other country where people are well informed. And they may even belong to a political party but go on a march against some policy, like Occupy Wall Street in the US. It went on for a long time. Another time, some months that I traveled and I was in a different corner altogether. Then they had started theirs. So it was like snowballing everywhere, fires everywhere, that kind of thing.
I remember in the UK, a mayor who was going on, they wanted a third runway.
That's right.
And the mayor, so like Okumbanapo telling Muhammad that no way. No, you're not having a runway in my Accra. You know, and he's leading a demonstration and you're not having a runway. It is part of the government.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying that our Million March would be interpreted differently. Then you belong to the opposition because this policy is from us. So in our part of the world, it's I don't believe I would ever advocate this kind of thing. But I think education and an allowance for political discourse, an allowance for people to vent whatever is in them, at least to show to the government that. But you see, on the other hand, if government will always continually show arrogance, that's also problematic. Such changes come, and they come like a jolt when it is spontaneous. But if spontaneity is not there, nobody should advocate for let's kick these people out or let's do this thing with a Million March, or it will turn into chaos, autocracy, all kind of, because Ghana is already indisciplined, a very undisciplined society, and the rule of law is not working, and therefore an advocacy for people to be belligerent in terms of this thing is not there. All I will advise is that let us continue to do these discussions, let us continue to educate ourselves, let us continue to help people to come to the level where they will say that if a thing is bad because maybe it's inherently bad, but not because I belong to this side. If a thing is good, it is good because it inures to the benefit of the majority of the people, and let's talk about it that way.
About moving forward, I mean, the guys are here or something. So what should the communication be from now onwards so that, you know, these messages will stop coming? You know?
From next week, I think there will be a seal. People will actually stop talking about this. Something will come up and Ghanaians will be so drenched in that they will even forget we have neighbors next door from Guantanamo. Doc talked about spontaneity. There needs to be change. There needs to be a pacifist revolution in the country. But what format it will take, nobody can tell. There are times you push somebody to the wall, but when you cross the Rubicon, there's always a blowback. So that could come in many forms, because the level of insensitivity is too much, whether from the MPP side when they were in government, or the level of errant and the sheer preponderance of Ethiopia during this current regime. So we need change, and education will be what will take us to the promised land. Let's engage some more. Media people have access to thousands, if not millions of Ghanaians. Let's try to present wholesome materials for our people to consume. A well-informed nation cannot be taken for granted. So that is what we have to do. So that, and you'll progress better when you do that. So let's move forward. And I believe these two guys, I still believe, and Doc and Nana and I, we could take care of these guys because they are unarmed.
Don't count me in.
Yes, they are
unarmed.
So, but Nana, that was one thing you made road, though. If they bring them to Edumasa, if they'll give us our road, I will take them in Edumasa.
There was one thing we nearly almost forgot. Yeah. The Syrians and other people, but maybe time would not permit us. But my biggest worry about these Syrians is this, that we are told they would mix up in society with relatives or people of Syrian origin. Does that open the floodgates for any other Syrians to want to come?
Doc is going to be on here. Syria. We're going to choose a particular day. We're going to have a series of topics. Being that it's an election year, we need to sensitize the public, and Doc is going to lead the discussion. I'm going to invite you to be part of it. Watch out tomorrow. Our personality is a wonderful woman. She started the nursery under a school, and 26 years ago, when she started the nursery and she was graduating, and she told the parents that, oh, I can foresee a university. They said, oh, just these little children under a tree. Today she's built a wonderful university. Tomorrow you don't want to miss this beautiful story. But gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been engaging, it's been educative. And stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be here to do this all over again. Thank you very much.